Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that's going to totally change the way you think about math. We're going deep into the world of ancient Indian mathematics.
And it's way more exciting than it might sound at first.
I know, right? Ancient Indian math, like who knew?
Trust me on this one. This is a story of hidden geniuses and discoveries that had a huge impact on, well, basically all of math as we know it today.
So we're talking about like the building blocks of math, the stuff we take for granted now.
Exactly. We're going way back in time to a period when India was a total powerhouse of mathematical innovation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Set the scene for us. What was going on in the world when all this was happening?
Well, while the ancient Greek civilization was kind of fading out, India was just hitting its stride. It was like their mathematical torch was being passed to India, you know?
So while Europe was in the Dark Ages, India was having like a mathematical renaissance.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And get this, both the Chinese and Indians independently discovered the decimal system.
Whoa, wait a minute. Independently? Like they both came up with the same system without even knowing about each other.
Pretty much. It makes you think about how some things in math just seem to be universally true, no matter where or when you are.
Yeah, like 1 + 1 = 2 no matter what language you speak. So that's why the decimal system is so widespread today. Because it just makes sense.
It definitely played a huge role, but there's a crucial piece missing from those 9 numerals.
Don't tell me. 0.
Bingo. It's easy to forget how revolutionary 0 was.
You mean there was a time when people didn't even have a concept of 0?
Exactly. The oldest recorded 0 was found on a temple wall in India, 9th century. Imagine stumbling upon that. It's like finding a mathematical fossil.
A mathematical fossil. I love that.
Yeah.
But was it just a placeholder for them, or did they understand 0 as an actual number?
They got it. They recognized 0 as a number in its own right. A huge step forward. This is what really unlocked a whole world of possibilities in math.
I see what you mean. It's like 0 isn't just nothing, it's a something. It has its own place in the system.
Yeah, it totally changed the game. And, Indian philosophy had these ideas of nothingness and eternity, so maybe that played a role in their understanding of 0.
That's fascinating. So their math wasn't just about numbers. It was connected to their whole worldview.
Exactly. It wasn't just calculations. It was a way of understanding the universe.
Okay, so 0 was huge. What else were these ancient Indian mathematicians up to? Did they stop there?
Oh, no. They were just getting started. They were tackling all sorts of mind-bending concepts like infinity and negative numbers, things that a lot of other cultures weren't even touching.
Infinity. Wow. That's a pretty big concept to wrap your head around.
Right. But they weren't afraid to dive into the really tough stuff.
So they weren't just playing it safe with basic arithmetic. They were going deep.
They were pioneers. And that's exactly what led them to make such amazing discoveries. Like, take Brahmagupta, a mathematician from the 7th century. He came up with the basic rules for calculating with 0.
You mean like the rules we learned in elementary school?
Yep. Those very same rules. The ones that tell you 1 + 0 = 1, 1 - 0 = 1, 1 times 0 = 0, those ones.
Wow, those rules go way back then. But what about dividing by 0? Isn't that like a mathematical sin?
It is. It was another Indian mathematician, Bhaskara II, who really started to understand infinity by exploring that in the 12th century.
So they weren't afraid to break the rules a little bit, huh? I like that. Makes you think about how math isn't just about following the rules, it's about pushing the boundary.
Exactly. And it's not just about calculations either. Indian mathematicians had this really unique way of looking at math as a whole.
What do you mean?
They saw it as a world of abstract concepts, not just practical stuff. Numbers weren't just tools for them. They were like entities with their own lives.
So like math for the sake of math.
Yeah, kind of. And that led to some amazing breakthroughs. For instance, they were centuries ahead of Europe in solving quadratic equations.
Oh, quadratic equations. Those bring back memories, not all of them good.
Well, just imagine trying to solve those without negative numbers. The Indians were way ahead of the game.
Give me an example. How far ahead were they really?
Well, there's this famous story about the French mathematician Pierre de Fermat. In the 17th century, he posed this really tough math problem. But it turns out Brahmagupta had already solved it 1,000 years earlier.
No way. That's amazing. Talk about being ahead of the curve. And they even developed a whole new language for math, right?
Yeah, they started using color names to represent unknowns in their equations. Instead of X, they might write blue.
That's so cool. A secret code for math. They were really creative.
They were, and they made incredible progress in trigonometry, too. The relationship between numbers and shapes, remember?
Oh, yeah, trigonometry. SOHCAH2A, right?
You got it. And while the Greeks kind of started it, Indian mathematicians really took trigonometry to a whole new level.
Okay, I'm ready for some mind-blowing trigonometry facts. What did they discover?
Their work on sine functions was huge. These functions connect angles to ratios of sides in triangles.
Okay, so we've got triangles, ratios, angles. It's a bit like geometry class. But how do they actually use this stuff?
Well, hold on to your hats because they use trigonometry to figure out the relative distances between the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun.
Whoa, wait, they figured that out without even leaving the ground?
Yep, all with trigonometry. And they even figured out that the Sun is 400 times farther from Earth than the Moon.
That is mind-blowing. It's like they were reaching out into space with just their minds and some math.
They really were. And speaking of reaching for the stars, have you heard of Madhava, a 15th century mathematician from Kerala, India?
Madhava. The name doesn't ring a bell. Tell me more.
He was a true pioneer when it came to understanding infinity, not just a concept, but a powerful mathematical tool.
Okay, so we're going even deeper into the mind-bending stuff now.
We are. Madhava discovered something called infinite series, the idea that you can add up an infinite number of fractions and get a specific value.
Wait, you can add up an infinite number of things and get a real answer? I'm not sure I'm following.
It does sound kind of crazy, I know, but that's where the magic of math comes in. Imagine walking from point A to point B. You can divide that journey into an infinite number of smaller steps.
Okay, so I'm walking half the distance, then a quarter, then an eighth. I'm picturing it.
Exactly. And if you add up all those infinitely small steps, you eventually cover the whole distance, which we can call 1.
Whoa, my brain just did a somersault. Okay, that's how infinity can make sense, at least mathematically. But how did Madhava use this idea? Did he just go for really long walks?
He actually used it to calculate pi, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. 3.14159 and so on.
Pi. Everyone knows pi. But it goes on forever, right? How could he calculate something that never ends?
He figured out a way to represent pi as an infinite sum of fractions.
Wait, so he cracked the code of pi. Nobody else had thought of that before.
What's even more amazing is that he did this centuries before the German mathematician Leibniz was credited with the same discovery.
Wow, it seems like we keep seeing this pattern, these Indian mathematicians making huge breakthroughs way ahead of their time.
You're right. It's a reminder that mathematical history is much bigger than we often think.
Okay, so Madhava figured out pi. Anything else he used his infinite series for?
He didn't stop at pi. He figured out how to calculate the sine of any angle with incredible accuracy using the same principles.
So pi and sine functions, all thanks to his mastery of infinity. That's incredible.
It is. But, like many brilliant mathematicians from non-Western cultures, his story hasn't always gotten the attention it deserves.
Yeah, it's a shame that their contributions have been overlooked for so long. But that's what these deep dives are all about, right? We're finally giving them the credit they deserve.
Exactly. It's about time we acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of mathematicians from all over the world. Their work has created this amazing tapestry of human knowledge.
Well said. This has been such an eye-opener. It's incredible to see how Indian mathematicians have shaped the world of math. But why do you think their contributions have been overlooked for so long?
It's a complicated question, but it has to do with historical and cultural biases,
Like, we tend to focus on Western achievements and forget about the rest of the world.
It's a bias we're only beginning to address now, in the 21st century.
It's like we're finally starting to see the bigger picture and realize that math is a truly global story.
Exactly. And as we continue to dig deeper, I'm sure we'll find even more fascinating stories of innovation from cultures all over the world.
Okay, but let's bring it back to our lives today. Why should we care about ancient mathematicians? What does their work have to do with us in the 21st century?
That's a great question. It's easy to think of ancient math as something from the past, totally irrelevant to us now. But the truth is, their work has had a massive impact on the world we live in.
Okay, I'm ready for some concrete examples. Show me how these ancient mathematical ideas are still shaping our lives.
Well, for starters, the decimal system, remember? That's the very foundation of our modern numerical system. We use it for everything. Imagine trying to do your taxes with Roman numerals.
Okay, I see your point. The decimal system is pretty fundamental. What about zero? I feel like that simple idea probably plays a bigger role than we realize.
Absolutely. Zero is the key to our understanding of place value, which is the backbone of our entire number system. Without zero, we wouldn't have negative numbers, and those are essential in so many fields.
Wow, zero really is a game changer. I'm starting to see how these basic ideas had a ripple effect throughout history. What else should we thank the ancient Indians for? So we've traveled through time, explored the invention of zero, tackled infinity, and even launched ourselves into space with ancient Indian trigonometry. Anything else we should know before we wrap up our journey through the world of ancient Indian math?
We've definitely hit some of the biggies, but there's always more to uncover. This has just been a taste, a little glimpse into this vast, intricate world of ancient Indian math.
I'm totally getting that feeling, like we've just scratched the surface here.
Right. Who knows what other mathematical treasures are still hidden away in those ancient texts, just waiting to be discovered.
It makes you wonder what else is out there. Makes you want to go digging for more.
That's the exciting part about history, right? There's always more to learn, more angles to consider, more stories to tell.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly expanding our understanding of the past, adding more pieces to the puzzle.
Exactly. And as we keep exploring the history of math, it's so important to keep our minds open and look beyond, the traditional Western perspective.
It's like we're realizing that math is a truly global story, a human story, told by people from all walks of life all over the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Math is this incredible tapestry woven together by the ingenuity of people from every corner of the world. And recognizing that is what makes it so fascinating.
I love that image of a tapestry, all these different threads coming together.
Right. And each thread has its own story, its own beauty.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's the one thing you really hope our listeners will take away from this?
I hope they come away with a whole new appreciation for how diverse and rich math history really is,
It's not just about formulas and equations, it's about the people and cultures behind them, right?
Exactly. And I hope it inspires people to stay curious, to keep learning, to keep exploring the world of math.
It definitely makes you realize there's so much more to discover out there.
Who knows? Maybe someone listening will be the one to uncover the next big mathematical breakthrough or rediscover a lost piece of history.
That's a great thought. And on that note, a huge thank you to our expert for joining us on this incredible journey through the world of ancient Indian mathematics.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to The Deep Dive. Until next time, stay curious.